Max Olson, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Max, thanks for your time, and we appreciate. How was babysitting yesterday?
It was good. You know, that's you got to keep your head on a swivel when your parent. Sometimes the 2-year-old's doing great. Sometimes he's coughing along up, and you don't really know what's going on. But no, we're good. We're good. Thanks,
it'll keep your head on the swivel. It will. No question. Hey, what are your thoughts? I know this is you and I are close to this, but Paul had mentioned this yesterday. Nebraska and Rhule and I guess Trev Alberts are bringing back former Husker coach Frank Solich to honor him in about a month at their spring game. And it seems like, man, yeah, it's been 20 years and it's past time.
Yeah, I think probably like people outside of Nebraska would not really understand what is like the point or significance of this, but this was one of those, like, Frank Solich has like literally not come back to Lincoln since he was fired, not once. There's just some very like understandably cold, kind of icy feelings there. You know, there's obviously been a lot of change in Nebraska in 20 years, but I know this is something that Frost and something that Trev always wanted was for Frank Solich to come back and be honored in some way that was meaningful, and try to kind of mend things there. And so, yeah, very, very positive development for Nebraska fans who I think enough time has passed that people have a little bit better perspective on this and just want a chance to thank Solich for his time.
Is this kind of like people going and like getting the piano out of the lake that Babe Ruth put out there on the ice to break the curse of the Bambino a little bit with Frank Solich? Like maybe the best.
I mean, Smoky can certainly attest. Like, there's definitely a curse element here, right?
Yeah, no question. You could fire a coach who was like 58-19, had just played for the national title. Now, again, they shouldn't have been in that game. They were slipping. Texas and Oklahoma were surging, and so there was a little worry about whether they were being left behind. But, yeah, they haven't been worth a damn except a couple of years with Bo Pelini since.
Yeah. It's and just as we did a big project on this a couple of years ago, but kind of one of the all-time classic botch jobs in terms of firing him, but not really having something better lined up, which is just a lesson you have to learn that, you know, when things are good, and like, certainly, yeah, like Nebraska was not at its full potential with Frank Solich or anything. Like, they were not Osborne level great under Solich, but it is a great like history lesson in college football that you can fire somebody thinking you deserve better, and definitely underestimate that like things can always get a lot worse than where you're at.
Max, how much, I guess, anticipation is there perhaps already, or just excitement over Rhule versus Dion in the not too distant future?
Yeah, it's a pretty good one there. You know, they've got, and I think Nebraska also has Minnesota, I think, to open, or one of their first games there too. So
and Colorado plays TCU.
Pretty tough test. Yeah, that's right. Colorado's got TCU, so some pretty tough tests there. I know you look at Dion's schedule, and it does not do him a whole lot of favors in year one there. I think that when the Pac-12 schedule came out for them, like, it helped kind of, you look at that and say, like, man, probably should set pretty realistic expectations here, especially with how much he wants to flip the roster. The Colorado is probably going to have a down year in year one. But, yeah, hard to say with Nebraska at this point, like, how good they could be. But that's going to be a fun matchup. Obviously, it was a pretty important one back in 19 when they played in Boulder, and Nebraska blew it and kind of went into a tailspin the rest of the season there. So I think that one's going to be a lot of fun, especially with all the new faces kind of on both sides of those teams.
Yeah, that kind of set the tone for the Scott Frost era. What were your thoughts of learning basically nothing during the NIL hearings in Congress?
Yeah, it seemed like a waste of time, which is you know, a lot of the lobbying and like efforts to ask Congress to come in and intervene and fix all this stuff. I can understand why that could feel like the convenient solution to this stuff, but in a lot of ways, like that, you know, it doesn't feel very realistic. Doesn't really feel like it's something that's being taken very seriously, at least on that side of things. So yeah, the DC intervening and trying to fix this stuff for the NCAA, that definitely didn't feel like a step forward. What happened, what played out the other day, and partially because there's just not a whole lot of knowledge or interest. And so yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that is going to be the magic solution, at least with that body. But certainly a lot more to play out there.
Did you find it kind of surprising? I think the most thing I found surprising was that Trey Burton and the softball player from FSU, Mudge, I believe her last name is, both were not in favor of unionization or collective bargaining. They didn't want to lose the NIL model as it stands right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not that hard to find two people who will agree with the point you want to put out there, right? Like, I think, but obviously, like, at this point in time, when you say, like, moving to employees, moving to collective bargaining, like, you can understand in theory how that would help solve some of the big picture problems here, but certainly it's hard to, like, lay out, here's how that would work, there's just, that I think we'll probably get there someday, but it's hard to say, here's the very easy way to do that everybody, especially at the AD level, is, like, comfortable with. So I understand, like, the logistics of that are challenging, but certainly, and I'm sure you saw that what Mike Gundy put out there this week, like, certainly people are starting to understand that, like, the employee model, there's, like, some benefits there that ultimately will solve some of the things people complain about so much.
Max, obviously there's been the ongoing topic of expansion. You guys have written about it. It's been a bit more quieter since the Pac kind of had their turn at the mic, so to speak. Yeah. San Diego State in the process is doing what they're doing. Just any more insight or any feel one way or the other any differently, really, as far as the ongoing Pac-12, talks, what have you, versus maybe a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a few weeks ago it seemed like this thing was heading closer to resolution, and now I think probably realistically it's everybody has to just keep waiting. Don't know where George Payokoff and the Pac-12 are at right now in terms of the negotiating on this TV deal and even who the partners would be on this. I would be surprised if Fox had come into the picture. I know John Quintana's put that out there. I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong, but a little bit of skepticism about that from people I talk to. But I, don't know which way the wind's blowing here with the Pac-12 stuff. Certainly doesn't seem like it's going to get solved here in the next few days or anything like that. So it's hard to tell what the timetable is and the deadlines are for this kind of stuff. I think it's going to keep playing out. And so the Big 12 folks, I think I just have to kind of sit back and see how that plays out.
Yeah, and it kind of, when Dennis Dodd yesterday was CBS Sports, and I know that the presidents, some of them at the Pac-12 have been able to talk a little bit. It seems like it was going to be this day, then this day. And Bob Thompson said this to me. He goes, what is the rush right now? Is it more important to get it done or to get it done right?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Ultimately, I think everyone kind of understands what the objectives are here for the Pac-12. It is to get as much money or more than the Big 12 got, and to do so in a way where the deal is still mostly linear and not all streaming. So whatever combination they come up with that gets to that, I think folks on the Pac-12 side are probably willing to wait as long as the final offer ends up being what they're looking for. So, yeah, I think that stuff will probably go quiet here for a little while, as much as there was a lot of anticipation in March around tournament time and stuff. Like, it just does seem like we probably have to sit back and wait a few more weeks on that.
Max, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us. Usually Thursday.